You get up and howl about America and democracy. There is no America. There is no democracy. We no longer live in a world of nations and ideologies. The world is a college of corporations, inexorably determined by the immutable bylaws of business. The world is a business. And I have chosen you to preach this evangel.
For all my free market healthcare robbing, stock stealing, retirement fund fucking with niggas. Fuck you little credit card scamming, jewelry stealing, crack selling, liquor store robbing motherfuckers. Shout to the homies, Carnegie, OG, Willie Randolph Hearst, Baruch, Rockefeller, the real Rockefeller, my main bitch Leona, pour out a little Louis XIII, Scott Rothstein, Jack Abramoff, hold your head, my chop niggas, let's get this money. I spend my day pepping America overseas, pension for the workers, nigga please, embezzlement, etiquette, private settlement, I'm better with Confederate rhetoric from my mansion in Connecticut, foreclose a big holes at the tenement, I twist words like a speech impediment, I hope you got good credit bitch, if not better get a new job with benefits, while I play golf with niggas to get cheddar with, new money buys brand new carrots, my old money bunch of great grandparents, you got grills in your mouth, I ain't mad at ya, I own every gold mine in South Africa. Thanks, baby, you made me $1 billion. Plus, I own a building for each one of my children's children.
Okay, good evening, everybody. This is Finn Seasonally. I'm trying to host this call, and we didn't get any practice here, so I suggested that earlier. And my plus button is not adding you, Chris, and I'm not exactly sure what to do with this. Boy, I sure wish we would have had a run with that. Now, let me see what I can do, because I'm having a hard time. Dadgummit. Let me try this. Add participants. Chris. And dadgummit. This is bad. Really, really bad. Alright, I'm coming looking for you here. Well, this is terrible. And how come you ain't showing up in here, John? I had you a minute ago. Son of a gun. If I enter this, it might hang us up, so I'm going to try it, though. Okay, well, that's what happens when you don't have a dry run. Is what I'm going to do is hang up and let Chris take it on his tablet. This phone would not allow me to add any calls to this. So I've been able to transmit, but, so. Anyways, toodles, y'all. Let's see how Chris can do this.
Are you in? Chris? Vince Easley, are you there?
I think we're on the air, CP Libre. Anyways, welcome everybody. Sorry for the 10-minute technical difficulties we had there. Let me see. And if
I hear you.
But anyways, we are live now. This is UCY Radio, Voice of Rebellion Radio, with your host, Chris J. I have CP Libre with me in the studio, and we are going to be talking about the Canadian Prime Minister elections tomorrow. That they're going to be 4 different parties competing tomorrow, which, in my opinion, 3 are about the same, and there's one that's different, and they're right now pulling about 6%. I think they're being underestimated. I think that they're going to actually receive a higher turnout than 6% for them, the Green Party. And then right now, the Liberal Party seems to have taken a sustainable lead of about 10% over the Harper, which there really are not much difference between Trudeau and Harper. Which Trudeau has, it looks like, around almost 40% of the vote, according to the polls, or the opinion polls, will go to him. Harper around 30%. NDP, they were originally picked to win the election a few weeks ago, but they completely have slid in the poll numbers, and they say they're down to 22%. And the Green Party sits at a very miserable 6%, which I don't think that's the true numbers. I think that is a common tactic is for the media to completely underestimate a candidate's chance and make it people disenchanted to vote for them. It's this, again, the legitimacy of the whole election in general seems to be very little, considering that it's very much set up like the United States system, which we know is 100% rigged, and Canadian system. I mean, Harper pretty much admitted to rigging. It's like when Mitt Romney admitted to that the Republican primary was rigged for him to win it. It's like this is when Harper admitted and that he rigged these original, I think the 2005 when he was elected into the prime minister position. He won on a fraudulent. He admitted with a fraudulent win, but nobody cares because that's people just, I guess that's how they figure just things roll. And now we've had 10 years of Harper on, I'm not Canadian, so I haven't lived directly under his leadership, but I know that it's very much like what the United States has with Obama or Bush, which both presidents have served under his leadership. It's been, a whole decade of Harper, and he's made he's made a special relationship, we can say, between Canada and Israel, for the worst for the Canadians. Israel loves it, because now the Canadians are just another country that bows hand and knee to the Zionists because of Harper, and it goes back even further than that. And now, only one candidate actually stands against Zionism. Even Mulcair, as progressive as he pretends to be, which he's not by any means when it comes to actually changing anything. He supports the TTIP, which is the European to North American version of the TPP. He supports Zionism 100%. Mulcair, Trudeau, Harper, they're all the same thing. And it'd be interesting, I guess it's somewhat interesting how the whole circus ends. I think that at this point, almost all the Canadians seem to be very disenchanted with the Harper leadership. Very few, except complete moronic voters, seem to still be in support of Harper. But it'd be interesting to see if he wins, because I think if he wins, there's actually a slight chance that we could actually see change in Canada, because if he wins, people will be out there protesting, people will be angry, people will be infuriated, and that's why I don't think the system's going to set it up where Harper wins. They're going to make it seem like they made a victory by Trudeau winning the election, and everybody's going to think Canada's going to be restored back to the times of, I don't even know when Canada was actually a great country. I mean, it's like the United States. You have to go back a long time. You have to go back to JFK. JFK was the last leader to stand up to the New World Order. I can't tell you when was the last Canadian leader to do so. And that's why I wish I had some followers. I be honest, with Canadian history, I know less about Canadian history than a lot of countries. I don't know. It interested me a little bit, but it never quite interested me like Russian history, where I know a lot about, or Middle Eastern history, especially Egypt, Syria, Iran. I know a lot about those specific countries, or just Canada. I couldn't tell you who was the prime minister. The one before the one that was before Stephen Harper. I don't even have a clue what that person's name was. That's how little I know about Canadian history. That's why I wish we had some callers so to tell me a little bit about it. I know it's just going to be some person that was had the same agenda. I know the only thing I know about the history of Canada is that for 60, or well, I think 67 years plus or something like that, until the Harper election, the Liberal Party had control of Canada, and then that was the first time since the 30s or something like that the Conservatives won. And I know there's the NDP's been around for a while. I know they had their leader, Jack Layton, die, and I know he was actually seemed to be somewhat more for change and actually stood for something, unlike Mulcair. Not since Mulcair took over that party's completely turned. I mean, it was already pretty much a sour pile of fake Seattle revolutionaries, but now it's just a complete cesspool of that gives people think that this is an alternative to the original two-party Canadian system, when this third party that they constructed is now just made into now three parties that are the same. Now we're talking about a fourth party, maybe a fourth party. The Greens, I think that, I don't know if they're completely legit. It seems like it from what I've seen. I mean, they are one of the few parties in North America that I've seen for 9/11 truth. Supportive of Palestine to the extent they are, and they're extremely anti-Zionist, and they're one of the few parties that are one of the few parties also that seem to actually want to make a friendship with Russia rather than try to start or try to continue a Cold War that's been in place. Really, this is just a continuation of the Cold War. It just took a break, and now we're in the second part of the Cold War. They just want to end all that hostility against Russia, and they seem to, they're also against GMOs and all these threats to our health that are sold by corporations like Monsanto, that are just absolutely detrimental with, the Canadian people's health or the American people's health or any country that sells these GMOs garbage. So I think that, Elizabeth May is actually the real deal. Only problem is that the system won't let her win. They've been hacking her ever since, I've been keeping up with this prime minister, the specific prime minister race, someone, and I saw that back in May she got drunk or something like that and went to that speech, it was on national television, and she's up there, I knew it was that they were going to just use that to attack her ever since that, when she did that speech drunk, and then she said, she dropped a few F-bombs in there, and then, she was talking, the way she was talking about Canada's whole involvement in this phony war on terror, they just have used that to attack her ever since then, and other stuff. I mean, she said that it seems like whenever she makes any bit of a statement that pushes any bit of boundaries, I mean, they make a big scandal about it up there north of the border, and Harper destroys your fucking environment. Harper says that if you call for a boycott of Israel, you can be thrown in jail. Man, he's put the same laws that the United States put in place a long time ago. And people don't realize that now in both these countries, they have this loophole to put activists in jail. Because they could say you committed a hate crime. They could say I committed a hate crime. They could say many people on this network committed hate crimes. If you just called for a boycott of Israel, that's a hate crime, according to the new Canadian law that Harper put in, and it's been an American law. Technically, they just don't enforce it that much, but it's always there to get you if they want to, and that's been in place in the United States for a long time actually. But Harper just put it up there in Canada, and apparently he's been enforcing it. So that's why I'm saying that he's definitely the most Zionist prime minister in all of Canadian history. It's and also at the same time, he gives weapons to Saudi Arabia. He made a giant weapons sale to Saudi Arabia. I mean, he's doing everything to mimic the United States foreign policy. And that's why I've noticed it wasn't just him. It goes back a while back to Canada slowly progressing into a country where they're just trying to mock America. They're America Junior. They don't try any of their own ideas. And it's kind of like, Mexico, where CP Lee is from. We've talked about Mexico. They have a lot of similar corruption. It's both Mexico and Canada have tried to play this game of they in many ways they've mimicked the tactics of the United States government. But I think that Canada, it literally is the exact same tactics. They use the same rhetoric on the media, and it wouldn't exactly work out the same if everything that they literally use the same kind of journalists, sometimes the same media. CNN, MSNBC, they have their own CBC. That pretty much mimics American media outlets and how they talk, what kind of rhetoric they use, what they consider unacceptable, the same kind of tactics they use against people like Elizabeth May or other activists in Canada. So, and also Harper's, they talk about the Cold War that he's made with Russia. He's made it, he's made it seem like, that Putin's committing cold-blooded murder in Ukraine, while the Canadian government supports these Western Ukrainian fascists are murdering people just for speaking Russian and just for being Russian in East Ukraine. So, of course, everything that's coming out of Harper's mouth is a lie. But also, let's not forget that these other two people are trying to defeat him because they're so against his ideas. All have a lot of the similar ideas, but they're just going to put a little bit different spin on it, most likely. Trudeau and the Mulcair. So just realize that really the polls, this whole 42% Trudeau, 30% Harper, 22% going to Mulcair, and 6% to May. Let's reanalyze these polls. What it really means is 94% Zionist Corporatist Party of Canada, 6% Elizabeth May. That's pretty much how it works out. That's all you need to know about the race as it is right now. Now, I don't think that Mays actually only has 6% of the country behind her. From what I've seen, there's a lot more support. However, the system is not going to admit that, and they're not going to. They don't want to do something like they did, where they don't want it to come to the point where people realize that they've rigged it, so they're going to cut it off at the root, and that's how these elect. They have to make it seem real. So what they're going to do is that they're going to blame May's loss, on they're gonna say, well, people saw these low numbers and they just didn't want to go out to vote, so that's why she only got 10% of the vote or whatever, But the truth is that she might, if the media had been telling the truth the whole time, there may a lot more country, they're like, 12% of the vote, maybe I should look into her. Then all of a sudden, 30% of the country would be behind her, and then she would actually possibly beating everybody. And then when she loses, they would be like, wait a minute, that's not true, because you're saying that she only got 20% of the vote or whatever, when it very much appeared as 40 or 50% of the vote. And people start to go in an uproar, and then they start to question, like what happened with Harper. How did he get in? And everybody realized that he got in fraudulent. Now, nobody seems to care, so I don't know why they go to these extreme lengths to even act like they could. They could just, there are a country that still has the monarchy, technically has some kind of authority. They could practically just at this point say, okay, the monarchy is going to appoint all prime ministers of Canada from now on out. That they still are in the Commonwealth of the British monarchy or something like that. So they I guess they still have ceremonial powers in Canada, or like in Britain, they do have actual powers in Britain, and they get to suspend Parliament and stuff like that. So I think there might be a point where they'll just say, okay, the British government or the British monarchy will now appoint our prime ministers, and people would not even care at this point, because I could tell that Canadian voters are just like American voters. They're just so out of it, do not care, that they're not even paying attention. They wouldn't even know it happened. I'm gonna ask it. I'm going to say the call-in number is 718-717-8296, 718-717-8296. I'm not exactly sure if anybody can call in, because phones are not forwarded to us, and the phones are not forwarded to us, and the person the phones are forwarded to can't get into the studio. So I think you can call us on Skype, though. You can just call into UCY Radio Skype, and if you I said, well, it would only be contacts now at this point. They'd be calling it the UCY radio. I don't think, because honestly, they can be added in just from random person. But, oh, wait a minute. Actually, no, I really want, I know there's people that want to call in today. If you can add, CP Libre. CP Libre, it would be cool for just, because I know that's the only way that people could call in is via Skype today, appears like. It would be cool if they could add you, and then once they add you as a contact, you just add them into the call. CP Libre, I can't. Okay. Hey, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, bro. I'm just having some fucking difficulties because there's a lot of rain since yesterday here where I am in Mexico City. It's raining and there's a lot of background, but I can hear you. I can hear you.
What I'm just saying is that.
Okay, well, I see a worldwide phenomenon happening in Canada, just like it has happened all around the world. There's two political parties supported by most of people, and there is a few people supporting an alternative project for a new nation, by cutting the strings that Washington is pulling over Canada, over Mexico, and over a lot of countries around the world. And those projects are the ones who really work for a change. I mean, Elizabeth may represent a really change from my point of view.
Well, yeah,
okay.
And with Canada, I think they've really just experienced some of the worst. I mean, again, like it seems like nowadays it's unrecognizable. Like the difference between the United States and Canada, there's very minute differences, but they don't seem to be, any bit noticeable. And the thing is that Canada is that Canada has not only just experienced it in their domestic policy, but again, their foreign policy extremely. They've gotten sucked into these wars, like the phony war on terror, where a lot of Canadian citizens, just like American citizens, they've have paid the ultimate price for just corporate and for corporate gain, pharmaceutical companies' gains via the opium fields in Afghanistan, actual, the United States government secret heroin smuggling operations and drug smuggling operations. This is what the Canadian people that fought in the phony war on terror have died for, and they were pretty involved in the war, especially at the beginning. And it's got to be a little bit reminiscent of like back in about 100 years ago when World War I was happening. The Canadians were in a situation where they were pretty much free. They were independent since 1867. However, until 1932, with the Westminster Act, they were in a situation that their foreign policy, was still dictated by the British government. So when World War I happened, the Canadian military was forced to enter on behalf of the United Kingdom, with the United Kingdom into World War I, and they suffered big losses, especially in some battles. I mean, the Canadian military was involved in some very ugly battles in World War I, and they had no choice, almost. It's almost like today they almost had no choice with joining this phony war. But the World War I was a lot more bloodier, too. I mean, when it comes to the Canadian loss and just everybody's loss in the war, but the Canadian loss, they suffered pretty badly for a country that had probably 10 million people at that time. It was not very populated and still not that populated considering it's the second largest country on the planet. So that's where Canada does become, people think that, well, what's the big deal about Canada? Why are they, it's the principle, number one, but number two, it's what Canada represents. Canada is the, Canada, but Canada represents it's the epitome of United States imperialism. It's the epitome of Tel Aviv's, I would say D.C. really is the United States, but they're just another example of Tel Aviv's grip of control on the Western world. But it also just comes down to by numbers. Think about it. Canada is the second largest country on the planet by area. The only country bigger by area is Russia. And Canada has a lot of natural resources. I'm pretty sure they have quite a bit of oil, especially when you get into the Yukon. A lot of gold in Canada, and a lot of lumber comes out of Canada, and pretty sure other kind of stuff, minerals and stuff can be located in Canada. It is a pretty resource-rich country, and that's why I think they go to these lengths to control it. Because it's not a country with a lot of people. It's not like they're controlling that many people. Really, the New World Order really they're only controlling. I don't even think Canada's population is as big as California. They have, for example, the state I live in, which is like they have in Mexico. They have states as well. It would be like that's always. It'd be like Florida is just like the state of Chihuahua. That actually is a state in Mexico, but it's just, that's all it is. Just a state here in Florida has 20 million people. Canada has only 12 million more. The entire country of Canada has 32 million people, I believe. It might have went up. I think that was the 2000 census, and I know there's probably been quite a bit more people moved in. Especially, I know there's quite a bit of foreigners actually in the country. They have a pretty decent sized Chinese population. And they have I think that's another thing that the Harper supporters really, the only people that are still supporting Stephen Harper seem to be Islamophobes that think that ever since 2000, too many Muslims have moved into Canada, which is really a very small number has moved in compared to the actual population of the country. And really, when you think about it, even if 1% of the country was Muslim, you're talking about 320,000 people total. It's such small numbers, and I know that unfortunately, like the United States, these racist attitudes are prevalent. And what's even sadder than that, I think, is the attitudes towards some of the Native Canadians. The Harpers went on this is continued what used to happen way back. In the British imperialist days when the British still had control of Canada, the British annihilated, put the Native Americans into, they put their children into residential schools, which were pretty much like prison schools, just for the crime of being Native Canadian. And, the Harpers pretty much continued this era of repression, taking away any bit of last concessions that they got from the Canadian government. Now the Native Canadians they're having a horrible time under the Harper government, and a lot of Canadians approve of this. That's the sad thing is that you'd think often it's shown in the media Canada as this very accepting, tolerant place. That's not true. There's a lot of Canadians that are just as backwards as somebody from the backwoods of Mississippi. And then at the same time, when we're going about stereotypes, there's a lot of people in the backwoods of Mississippi that are more accepting than a lot of people out in California or something that's supposed to be all tolerant. So you can't get into stereotypes, and I think that's where some of this resentment towards the Native Canadians goes to. I don't even know what's their argument, because it's their ancestors that came to Canada. The same thing in the United States when we're talking about Canada show. Their ancestors came from Britain to Canada, or France, a lot of them, too. If you live in the eastern part, there's probably a high likelihood that you have French blood. However, your ancestors came from there and took over this land that used to be to many different Native Canadian nations, killed them, gave them illnesses, put them in prison, and now you're going to act like they're the bad guys. It's an absurd mentality, but I guess it's the same mentality that I don't even, it doesn't even really exist too much from what I understand here in the United States. I mean, when it comes to natives, that is one thing I think we've progressed. A lot of stuff we've never really progressed on, but I don't see too many people most people that know anything about the Native American history don't, they're not going to take a stance like the Native Americans were wrong. They know that very much we were wrong, or our ancestors were wrong for what they did. And there's in some places they still have these backwards mentalities, and Canada appears to still have it. And some, and Harper has just been to Native Canadians, he's been the worst leader in Canadian history. He's also been the most Zionist leader in Canadian history. So, it's not like the ones before him are any better, really. But Harper is just a complete bag of shit. That he's their own Peña Nieto up there. And I think that this could be the guy that eventually causes Canadians to get so angry that they'll revolt. Because down in, it's like with Mexico, they're starting to revolt down there because they're so angry of this epitome of all the U.S. imperialist shitbags that have been funded, have been helped by D.C. And, this one finally pisses them off enough to do something about it and change it. I think that's what's going to happen up in Ottawa eventually, especially if Harper gets reelected. Because think about this. Now that this is 4 or 5 years, they don't even have a set time that they have elections in Canada. For example, I'm pretty sure Harper was reelected in 2011. I'm pretty sure he had a 6-year period or something like that where he didn't face any election. It's kind of just set randomly. And that was also, this election is kind of is messed up in its own way because the Green Party, it was obviously, the Green Party didn't get enough time to spread their message. They, for their campaign, it wasn't already known about before this campaign cycle started just a few months ago. Harper, everybody knows who Harper is already. All these other people kind of, were able to make a name for themselves. Elizabeth May came from just general obscurity to somewhat people knowing about her. Now that we're 1 day away from the election, I think if she had more time, and that's why they called an early election, just purely to make it where May could not be known, not be able to go to enough cities in that time, not to even be able to go to enough debates. Really, that there was only a few debates, and they locked her out of about half of them. Which I guess that's a applause to Canada, because here in the United States, third-party candidates are never even allowed any debates whatsoever. We even had a third-party candidate being in debate since the 90s, I think. Which at least there she was able to get in one debate earlier, I remember. And I know she did a good job. And apparently, according to that, though, that didn't boost her poll numbers whatsoever. Which I know that's a crock of shit right there, because that's the kind of stuff that actually does it. It's like, oh, well, she that when they see her on the debates, like, oh, she did a good job, I'm going to go look her up. I know for sure at least a few percent more of the country decided that they liked her after that. But according to the phony poll numbers, her ratings stayed about the same. Debates, if you're talking about a legitimate election, that's not 100% rigged, they make or break a candidate. And I think that Canada is not quite to the point the United States is like, for the few reasons I said, is that at least they do allow the fourth party candidate in their case. Here, the third party candidate, at least they allow them into at least one debate. We have all these debates all along the way, and they have debates here in the United States purely just for show, just to showcase these puppets that they have, and on the Republican and Democrat side, and they all will disagree over the smallest things, but they really all are, most of the time they're agreeing with each other about this, about their ideas. Their ideas are just the set agenda. Up there in Canada, there seems to be some minor things better, but again, it's quickly. And believe me, if Harper stays 4 more years, or whoever, Trudeau or whoever wins, it's going to be exactly the same as the United States within a few years, and I think that eventually if Peña Nieto and Harper and whoever, Hillary, are all leaders of their respective countries in 2017, you're going to see around that same time the North American Union try to be formed. And now, when the North American Union's formed, they're going to roll out the Ameridollar. All the continent will be on the same currency, and it's not just a French conspiracy theory like some people say. It was talked about by George Bush back in 2005, and they kind of remained silent about it. But I think that scenario is what they're waiting for. And also at the same time, remember what's on the plate is the TPP being signed. The United States hasn't signed it yet. The fast track has been approved, but the TPP itself hasn't been approved in the United States. The whole agreement as itself has been approved all across the 12 countries have signed it, but they still have to be passed amongst the individual governments, whether they'll be in it or not. I think one of the steps for the North American Union to happen, first these countries are going to all sign the TPP over the next 2 years. The Mexican government, the American government, and then the Canadian government. But I think the order is going to happen. I think it's going to be the American government's going to sign it next few months, Canadian government after this election some point, and then the Mexican government will probably join the TPP next year or so. If there isn't a revolution, of course, which could happen. Like I said, I think that Mexico is the most likely country on this continent. What's the situation? How the people think right now about the Mexican government? I think that definitely they could have a revolution within. They could have. I think that Peña Nieto won't see his 2018 re-election bid. That's all I can say right now, from what I've seen. CP Libre. I mean, what do you know about the whole situation up there in Canada and Stephen Harper? CP Libre, what do you think about the the election tomorrow? Do you have any thoughts about I know I kind of talked about what it all means and stuff, but do you think? How do you think it would affect Mexico? Because you were talking about there's a lot of Canadian corporations that they're tearing up the environment down there in Mexico. They're acting like how Stephen Harper acts to their own environment up there in Canada. Do you think that? What do you think this election? What could happen for Mexico if this election goes one way or another when it comes to their environment caused by Canadian corporations, mining corporations, and you said what else did down there? What else Canadian businesses are down there? CP Libre, you there? Anyways, if you can call in to UCY Radio if you're a contact, I think it just automatically accepts you in or call. You can just look up UCY.radio. If you're not a contact yet, maybe they'll add you today. If you want to call in, and because I know that again, there's a lot of Canadian fans of this show, and some of them are pretty awesome. Some of them can't say the same about. Some and some are really insightful and could give me some. We could talk a little bit more about the history of Canada. Talk about way back. One thing I would like to know is I think that I kind of forgot to talk about it. That's all figured the situation. I would like to hear some people's opinions about this. What about Quebec? I mean, I know Quebec has tried to leave Canada just as recently in 1996. They left Canada, or they tried to leave Canada, and the referendum failed. I know that. I mean, May said she would actually. That's another thing I think that she's good on, is that she would talk to the Quebec authorities and would want, and see what kind of compromise they could come to. I think that it is important that Quebec, if the Quebec people, are generally supportive of all, these independence movements, and especially a country that's that much different than, I know, for example, when you go to Quebec, if you don't speak French, you might be in trouble, because there's a lot of people that speak French only over there. I know French is actually not just in Quebec only, but it's the only place really where a good 90% of the country, or 90% of the province, speaks French. They have a lot more French ties, and for I was talking about it wasn't just English in Canada, but mostly there was also French, but most of the French settled down in Quebec area. And the French actually were there first, I believe. I think the French have been there since the early 1500s. They came to Canada, and they settled into Quebec. And, I know one thing that is a little bit annoying, though, is that I think that May would receive a bit more support if I think that the Quebec Bloc in the Green Party should have merged for this election, because they do have similar interests, and not all of it's the same. But they do both support Quebec independence, and none of the other three parties do. I think they should have merged, and it would have just been a good idea, because now any chance that May had is now gone, because there's this fracturing down at the between that. Well, that wasn't just it. I think the fact is also that a lot of people are running to the NDP, think that they're the alternative to what traditionally was a two-party system in Canada. The NDP really just showed up onto the scene last election, where they became the second biggest party represented in the Canadian government, next to the Conservatives. But the NDP is not really a true party of change, and they're just the same. Leclerc is a Zionist. He actually told people that if they don't support Israel, that they should leave the NDP, which the NDP didn't always used to be as what it is right now, where it's a complete cesspool of Democrat-esque social justice warriors, in quotation, or whatever. They think they're all for, that they're changing to us, and that they're actually taking away power from the corporations or whatever. You know what? I think the best analogy. Mulcair is pretty much a Bernie Sanders to Canada. He says he's gonna do all this stuff to help the Canadian workers, that he's gonna go against the corporations, but in all reality, he's receiving a bunch of money from the corporations. He doesn't really care about the Canadian workers. They both support Israel, and they both support they both want to continue the Canadian foreign policy / American foreign policy, and ultimately, they both would be supportive of joining agreements like the TTIP. And that's just as bad as the TPP. It's the European to a North American version of it. And with the election's tomorrow, from what I understand. So it's pretty cool to get a chance to talk about it the day before it happens. I mean, we're literally just a few hours away from it's about 12 hours or so from the polls being opened in all of Canada. The poll, I mean, it's already almost 11 o'clock over in Nova Scotia and all the parts that are Atlantic Standard Time, so that means the polls open like 8 hours from now. I think that I think of what the media is going to say has happened. This might not actually be what they actually, how many people supported which party. But I think Trudeau's going to win with about 35% of the vote or so. I think Harper loses by a mere 5% or so if he gets 30% of the vote. Mulcair tallies in about, let's see, I'm going to figure he tallies 20% of the vote, about even. Then May, she might actually get 10%, just to make it seem like, well, they're going to make it seem like this is legitimate. Look, she actually got more than what the opinion polls got, So now and then the other 5%, that's just going to be splintered up between all the other minor parties or so. But I think that's a rough estimate, but I think Trudeau wins the prime minister election tomorrow. Unfortunately, and Trudeau. I don't. For one thing, I heard that all these people were supporting Trudeau simply because he said he wants to legalize weed, which I think that he's not actually going to go on. It's not actually going to happen. I don't think he's actually going to make true what he said. And also, here's another thing: is that in a way, it's really just restoring to what it was 10 years ago. In some ways, when you think about it, it's not much better because before Harper in Canada, from what I understand, weed was practically legal. I mean, it was to the point where police looked the other way. It was not enforced. There were the laws on the books, but they were not enforced up there. So now he's just going to make it where the law is legal. That's what he says he's going to do. I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's going to back away from that very quickly. This is the election promise to get people to support him. I think that Trudeau, what will actually happen is that he's going to get involved into Syria with the United States. I think that they're going to continue their involvement into West Ukraine and putting paratroopers and other specialty troops into West Ukraine. I think they're going to. I think under Trudeau. I think that it's kind of good what I'm thinking. So it's just as bad as Harper, and it's bad on this point that any big change. And also, what I hear is that he's super. I hear he wants to improve relations. He wants more drums of outsource, whatever. I hear actually, Canada actually had somewhat of a. They were not as badly affected by the whole recession that happened recently. But this ain't gonna help anything. That it's not. This can't help by sending more jobs overseas to China. It's gonna definitely probably take away any success that the Canadian economy's had over the last few years. That was different than over the United States. So definitely, Trudeau is Trudeau's not looking out for the Canadian worker, and I think Trudeau's best equivalent in the United States is really like or something like that. And I think that Stephen Harper, it's obvious who he resembles in the United States. Stephen Harper is George Bush Jr. You know, actually George Bush is a junior, but you know, he's George Bush's apprentice. That's what Stephen Harper is. And then I guess in this whole gang, Peña Nieto's he's their Mexican friend. That's in the North American cartel working for the New World Order of corrupt fascist leaders. You know, now the entire, what most people consider North America, you know, we have Central America and the Caribbean, that there's governments that are different, but as it is right now, the entire continent of North America is the same. It was Harper up there in Canada right now, Obama in D.C., and Peña Nieto down south of the border in Mexico. And I think under this next term, you know, unless May, by some miraculous effort, wins tomorrow the election, unless that happens, we're going to see Canada probably become part of a North American Union by the next election, whatever it's 2019 or 2020. And it's going to be welcome because in all the three countries, most likely, because they're going to say, oh, look, there's no more hassle crossing these borders or whatever. You'll have the same currency, and they're going to say it's a strong currency. Well, that's not going to be, but all of it's going to be for the ultimate step to the martial law state all across North America, FEMA camps, all that stuff will happen when the North American Union is formed. And again, if anyone wants to call in, again, you have to call in via Skype, call into UCY Radio. We have about an hour left of the show, and I know we have a few people that I would like to talk to. I was originally going to have somebody from, of course, it doesn't get much more Canadian than this, from Angry Beaver Radio, and his name, I don't even know his real name because he has a character. Well, actually, it's a combination of two characters from a very Canadian Greasy TV show that they say on good old Trailer Park Boys. But this guy, Randy Leahy, is his Facebook name. He's on the Angry Beaver Radio. You know, he doesn't even have a picture of himself on there. I don't even know if he has any pictures of himself. He has a picture of Mr. Leahy from the Trailer Park Boys. You know what? Since we've got an hour left and I don't think there's any callers, I might as well just do a good old Mr. Leahy impression here. Because CP Lieber is going to be totally lost because he's never seen Trailer Park Boys. But you hear that, Rand? Ship barometers rising through the roof. When the election happens and that shitbag Stephen Harper wins, you know what's going to happen? Ship pressure will raise so high that your ears will implode from the ship pressure. And then you know what happens? Shit wins. That's right. Shit wins are brewing. I can't do this. I'm thinking of how a lady would actually say it, and I'm just using lines here. I got some more lines here. You know what happens when two ship plates collide during a cycle of shit tectonic? A shitquake. And that's what's going to happen tomorrow, Randy. A shitquake of shit. I gotta make this all. With me just talking to myself about how fucked Canada is and how fucked the United States is right now, and how the whole continent just, you know, this election doesn't seem to. It seems very dark. Outcome tomorrow. We just gotta make it somewhat lighter. And I guess Trailer Park Boys is really the best way to just lighten the mood. But, I was thinking of any other characters I could do. But I could do a really good Bubbles character, but I can't think of any lines that he would say right now that would actually be good. Plus, I haven't done a Bubbles impersonation in about a few months. Again, when I started doing the very Canadian activity of playing street hockey, I seem to, I'll start doing these kind of Trailer Park Boys impressions or whatever with my friends. Start doing the Bubbles impressions. You know, I'll do a few words here. Holy fuck! Jesus Murphy! Damn, that was spot on. Yeah, I don't know what it sounded like on the radio, but I'll tell you that if you don't think that at least sounded somewhat like Bubbles, fuck you. It sounded like Bubbles right there. That was, and at least some people here are not completely lost to what's going on. They know that I'm talking about the Trailer Park Boys, and they know I'm just having fun here because we have 58 minutes to fill in. I have no callers, and we had technical fuck ups early in the show. I don't even care about the swearing because I know that this is a late night crowd anyways. I mean, it's not like there's 10-year-olds listening to the show. I mean, shouldn't they be already asleep? I mean, it is 10 o'clock here on the East Coast, and it's 11 o'clock over there in Nova Scotia, and then that's actually 11:30 over there in Newfoundland time. So, anyways, CP Libre, you back? I saw you were re-added as a call. CP Libre, if you don't respond in the next few seconds here, I'm about to start doing a Bubbles impersonation. I'm probably going to embarrass myself here. Jesus, Murphy! Fuck are you, CP Libre? Gosh, this UCY show is so packed right now. You got this guy, Chris J, pretending to be me. CP Libre is not even talking. I swear to God, I didn't have any of the Canadian hash that Ricky makes or something like that before the show, and that's why I'm doing Bubbles impersonations. All the other impersonations, you have to see, like, Julian impersonation, for one thing, you can't really get his voice right. Number two, is that when I actually dressed up, well, there was a day, TV character dress-up day, during my senior year at Bogey, and then I went kind of all out. I wore the black T-shirt, I wore the jeans, I had the shades. I even had a drink, so I was Julian fucking for the day, you know. And I think I pulled it off pretty good. I mean, my friend kind of did a halfway decent effort at being Ricky. I mean, it didn't really work out because he didn't even have the shirt right. I mean, he had the track pants. That was all they had, pretty much. I mean, it wasn't school, so he couldn't have like a Ricky joint or something like that. That would get in trouble. And drink, I didn't actually have a real drink. I didn't even have anything that looked like a drink because I didn't want to get in trouble. So I just had an Arizona tea. That was what I had. But I still was like, I naturally drink Arizona teas, and they already do look kind of beer-like, but I seem to drink them like I drink it in a beer way fashion for drinking. So, but anyways, that's not even from Julian House. It's fucking, what is it, rum and coke on the rocks. That's what he drinks. Sometimes he drinks some of the stuff. There's a little Trailer Park Boy factoids for all the people who are listed north of the border, and they keep you interested, and keep you interested, eh? And I'm sorry that this show has went to this trailer park greasiness, and but if you don't like, you can just get in the car and show your way out to the door, and you just get out of here. Continue doing the Canadian accent, eh? Talking about what else? What else is more Canadian? This show has been sponsored by Tim Hortons, eh? Go grab yourself a stack of pancakes and just start. I don't know. I don't think this is true because I see all this shit about how Canadians are the most polite people or whatever. I don't think that's true. Because I see some of these people commenting on the internet and stuff like that. I'm like, they seem just like any other American people or whatever. They really just don't seem any different, really. I think what's the main difference between the United States and Canada? You guys got bags of water or something like that? We have water in bottles, and over there, they do like all the third world countries, like when I was in Colombia, you get bags of water, and then you cut it open with a knife, tie it, explode it. Kind of weird. Bags of liquid.
I like the rest I think I'm pretty sure I said the one song. Rock. I had heard it before. That's my show. How about we skip voting for all these nine scumbags or whatever? I mean, may have a slight chance of winning, but you know what? I think we're forgetting one major candidate here, and I think he's going to bring a shitstorm to DC. Become the supervisor of Canada. That guy's named Jim Leahy. Everybody vote for him. It's Jim Leahy here, and bring a shitstorm to DC. And they handed me down for shit's real. and they guard Israel like shit hawks, but they're yet treating their own people like shit hogs. That's what the shit lines. People that do not know what Trailer Park Boys is are just completely lost right now, but it is a place. It catch people up. Jim Leahy talking. But you use it everything he went through. It isn't. He adds shit to everything. He uses their regular metaphors and he adds shit to it. You know, like he just adds the words, like a shit mouth. Not just a mountain. Not a mountain, but a shit mouth. Or, or like the, one other couple is about Ricky, kind of like the main guy of the show. That she said, "Shit leper can't change and shit spots." That's literally what she said. The best shit of all time is the wind shit. She starts talking about that Bubbles is the one that talks in that funny voice and has the goggles. Bubbles is I think Bubbles is kind of like the funniest character. His presence there. But again, I don't know. I don't Rick though. He's pretty fun. Oh, I just realized we started the show. On this show, this is the one that we were going to talk about. I had a few people in mind really talk about the kindness in the Canadian government. Failed to put in. And CP Libre's been messaged, man. See, it won't even. You can't even hear well, and it's been throwing him out. This call. So I don't know what exactly the deal is right now. Well, I've got an idea. That someone who could come on the show and maybe talk for a little bit, even though he's not Canadian. I don't know, because I don't even have any contact on Skype. I do have them on. Well, I have that one lady that called in, I think 2 weeks ago, Liza. However, I don't have any. I don't have. I pretty much contacted all the Canadian friends trying to get them on the show, but they're all busy or they weren't really suited to be on the radio in the first place. You know, I didn't really make that judgment. I don't think there's much to being on the radio, but they didn't feel like they were suited to be on the radio. We have 48 minutes left of the show to kill. Well, we could get into the. Is that we could get into one thing? Is that I know that there's also just a question that maybe somebody could send it over or something like that into the chat room or something about the. I was like, I wonder, because there's this big Asian population in Canada. I wonder how they've been treated ever since Harper took power. I'm assuming it probably can't be good, but I would like to see from actual Canadian myself hear from them, and they can see what they have to say. We have, we in the United States, there's people seem to be pretty pissed off about immigration in Canada. Like, they want to be in the United States and just minor, not really an issue. And then you have all these major issues with corporations, Zionists, controlling the Canadian and the American government over here. But see, people don't really seem to care about that, which I find to be just it's the epitome of what's wrong with the United States. People are just all about the wrong issues or lack of issues, really, and they're not actually paying attention to the real issues. But it's a crime to call for a boycott of a country or call for a boycott of Israel. There's something wrong, and especially when Israel has such a, what they do to the Palestinian people. They kill thousands of them. They injured almost 10,000 Palestinians during the 2014 war, which Harper was 100% supportive, and they made almost 100,000. There's something very wrong with the country. Our government was calling for a boycott of that country. They consider it a crime. They consider it a hate crime. While actual hate crimes are going on against Native Canadians that are produced by the Canadian government, and nobody does anything about it. I think definitely it's a indictment of the North American system being just very screwy, and just as a continent in general, North America has become fascist. Canada was also. They've gotten pretty involved with the precarious involvement of the United States foreign policy. So Canada's actually became a main perpetuator of some of the stuff in the Middle East, and I think it goes back. I want to look something up here. That I know they were, some Canadians were supposedly the heroes during the Iran hostage crisis. Where the Canadian ambassador sneaked 6 Americans out of the embassy that the Iranians had taken over, the American embassy in Tehran. I'm gonna look up. I'm just gonna look up some of these names on here that I was thinking of for the prime ministers, and because I don't want to be up here lost about who was it before Harper. I don't even know who was. Let's see. Before Harper, we had. Before Harper, I'm pretty sure I know the name of the person, but let's just make sure I know who was it before Harper and go back. I wonder if Canada has their own GFK, you know, or whatever. I don't think that any Canadian prime minister has been assassinated. I wonder if they have somebody that was removed from power or something like that, because you know they stood up to the system actually. Which I don't know if that's actually happened. It seems like just Canada has been kind of like how it has been for most of its history. It's gone a lot worse under Harper. But like I said, the people before Harper weren't much better. Let's see, Prime Minister received by Paul Martin, who he was the Prime Minister from 2003 to 2006. A very short time, really. Gene, this is the one that I didn't even know the name of, was for 10 years actually, from the mid 90s over to 2003. Gene Sherrattini, which this is the one that must have gotten Canada involved with the war, because this is around the time that Canada joined in the war. Was they joined around the same time everybody else joined in the Iraq War, and in 2003. So I'm guessing that he got, you know, this must have been the shitbag that got Canada involved with the Iraq War that got 1.8 million Iraqis killed. It was looking for somebody. I'm gonna just text somebody here and see if they can join in the show, because I've went solo long enough. Just give me a second here. I'm texting right now. If anybody on here is actually supportive of any of the other three candidates, it's actually because I wonder. I don't get to see right now the UCY chat room. I would like to see what they're talking about. You know, if they actually are, if they actually are anybody in support of these three shitbags, Mulcair, Harper, or Trudeau, because it just feel a lack of awareness of what's the situation in Canada, or just the situation of the New World Order running the things behind the curtains. But you know, I want to check if anybody is in the chat room that's waiting. I never even interact with people in the actual UCY chat room. I just interact on people's Skype. I want to check out your messages. I know you can't call in. I know you might have been trying to interact with me through there. Actually, now I think about it, I don't even have an account, so I don't know if I would even be able to interact with anybody via the chat room. And, you know, we have 40 minutes, so I figure I could answer somebody's questions, a few questions or so, in the chat room about what we're talking about. And my co-host just messaged me. He's been blocked out. He's been blocked out the entire show, and we can't hear him. You know, it's like, I'm thinking maybe we just drop the call and start over here in a minute or so. Let me just get a hold of him. Oh, and right now we
are about 1 hour and 20 minutes. Well, we only been on for an hour and 10 minutes because we started late. And we, as you know, again, we've just been riddled with technical difficulties the last 2 weeks. And I don't know exactly what's causing all the technical difficulties or if it's even anything correlated. It might just be just complete unluckiness. But I don't think it could be possible. All this stuff could just be you've just gotten so unlucky the last few weeks. But when I think about it, it almost has to be that way. It can't even be any bit of a correlate. I don't think none of the stuff is really correlated, which is surprising. But I guess stuff like this doesn't happen where you just get unlucky and then get unlucky next week, and then that we had it's been a few months since we had these kind of technical difficulties, and I was really we were just trying to get everything figured out for the equipment wise for UCY Radio. Now though, it's kind of surprising that we're having all these problems. And then despite I just got this new camera too. I don't know on what end of the problems happening, and we apologize for that. And hopefully next week we'll have, hopefully next week we'll have both our co-hosts, or at least just one co-host. So it won't just be me talking the entire show nonstop for 2 hours. And it causes me kind of have to take breaks in the show, and that's the problem. There's absolutely no break. I just go to 2 hours solid. It's really kind of a hard task. Last week, we didn't really got to finish our show in Spanish, which was a bit disappointing. But anyways, I'm still waiting for a caller, and it's not like nobody can call in completely. I mean, we can. But you have to call in via Skype. I'm just seeing Vince just messaged me something. It's really people need to. It's kind of hard to be talking and messaging at the same time. I'm trying to figure out something. Maybe we can get salvage part of this show. We're going to have callers or something. I'm going to have a caller talk for the last 35 minutes or so. Also, I know that I don't know how it works up there in Canada. I don't know if they have almost too quick to be true tallying like they have in the United States, where the polls just closed. Not even all the polls have closed, and they already have a winner. They have such good predicting skills and stuff. They say. I don't know if that's the case up there in Canada, or if we find out the next day. I know usually other countries seem like at least a few hours later they find out who won. Here in the United States, when we have election day, that's part of the way you can tell it's completely rigged. I mean, it's just about the fact that the polls close at 7 over there on the West Coast, which is 10 o'clock, and then by 11:25, and then let's not forget the biggest state with the most electoral votes is California. They always, so their polls are closed at 10 o'clock, and somehow within an hour and 25 minutes, it never goes. It seems like you can almost, it's less than that. So we don't usually by 11 o'clock there's already a winner decided. So you're telling me that within an hour of, just the last, the thing is that if there's still people in line, they don't close the polls. Sometimes people stay in line till 6 in the morning. And in Florida it happens. It happened. I remember the last election. Here
it was definitely, the place is still open. I guess Tallinn, they stayed open, I think, all night. To a place across the street where people vote around here, which is a church. That's the polling station. They changed it recently. I don't know. I don't see all these other elections, like what happened, but yeah, it's like sure. I just would be curious, just to know, because that's an indicator of how rigged an election could be. Plus, it's a plus, you know, I would like to know, just so I know when I can look online and be like, oh, look, my prediction came true. Trudeau fucking won the election. Yeah. I just don't even like his name, Trudeau. I don't know. I really just don't like the whole. Harper, I hate. Trudeau, I hate. Mulcair, I generally hate. Trudeau in general. I mean, it's like he looks like a douche. His name is, you know, it's funny. His name is obviously French, but he's going to probably do nothing to negotiate with the Quebec people about, you know, I don't know if they. I think if they all vote, if, you know, if the majority doesn't vote that they want to be independent, well, they don't. You know, I think it should be it should be a much longer process than what they've done ever since the '96 referendum. They should have a serious talks, and they, you know, I think for one thing is that there is one major hurdle I see is that it would make a split nation, because, you know, there's a lot of Canada that's not Quebec to the east, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick. There's the Newfoundland and Labrador. You know, there's all the land of Canada that's to the east of Quebec. You know, and there's, of course, all the rest of it to the west of Quebec. And then there would just be this country in the middle. So I don't know how really Quebec state would work. I think that if Quebec was to become an independent state, I think that they would need some kind of a bridge or something. I can't even think of an example like that where, you know, where the country where you'd have to go to another province in the country to drive, for example, after the Quebec province would be, or the province would be turned into a country. Perhaps you're going from Ottawa to Halifax. You would drive through. You would go to the checkpoint at Quebec, go enter Quebec, leave Quebec at the other checkpoint, back into Canada. You know, it seems like it wouldn't exactly work. So again, I see the hurdles why Ottawa wouldn't be so quick to give Quebec independence, but I think that they have definitely a unique enough culture where it needs to be definitely thought about deeply. For example, I mean, I think there's some countries that really do not, you know, deserve their statehood, like Kosovo or whatever. There's complete imperialist-made countries, just split up larger, strong countries that were against them. Like, for example, you know, they took that was just a split of Serbia even further, and what originally was the great Yugoslavia, or Serbia's the legal successor of Yugoslavia. The capital was Belgrade in Yugoslavia, and Belgrade is still the capital of Serbia. Tito was actually a Croatian. Well, anyways, CP Libre just sent me a thing he wants. This is a little message he wants me to read. Tomorrow's election is not only about a party or candidate. It's also about making yourself stand whether for or against a project, which includes more people than your own population with your vote. You'll be affecting people in Mexico, like he's referring to the Canadian corporations that damage the environment in Mexico, and in other countries where politics decide on the quality of life we could reach. And be honest to yourselves. If you want to support these creepy men like Harper and Trudeau, be the voice of the ones living under the mistakes of your corporations and politicians. And nicely said by CP Libre. You know, obviously he lives in Mexico, and people don't realize that Canada does have a very, like I said, their foreign policy mimics the United States, so they are they're the World Police Marshals Juniors. They got the little junior badges, like when the police visited your school back in high school or whatever, or I don't know, and then they took some people under the wing under some junior program or whatever. That's what Canada is to the United States World Police of the New World Order. The Canadian military is not that big, but it actually is pretty effective. I mean, in fact, I think they're probably one of the most elite militaries in the world when it comes to the kind of skills that they have. Not by size. I mean, the country, Canada, has as many able-bodied men as are in some militaries around the world. I mean, they only have 32 million people total, so that means they're probably about 16 million men, and probably 7 million of them are either old, disabled, children. So so it's probably less. The biggest military in the world has 10 million people. About North Korean military. That's what they say. I think it's the biggest active military. They have China has a giant reserve that I think they have ultimately the biggest military on the planet. I was just making the point about Canada. I was just making the point about about Canada's small military but yet effective military. Imagine if they actually legitimately. I think about this. May she would probably actually be able to listen to what a lot of people in Canada want. A lot of people in Canada would like to see they would definitely like to see a true defeat of ISIS. I know that a lot of people are very, very worried about ISIS or whatever, and seeing what they've done in Syria and Iraq, and they're tired of this phony war that this West coalition has made of the war against ISIS. So May would actually probably be willing to listen with the Putin and violence. I think May would the Canadian military with its might to help Russia absolutely annihilate ISIS in Syria, and I think they're about to go into Iraq. I mean, Russia hasn't committed on Iraq yet. But when they are permitted into Iraq, I mean, they're done there too, and they'll have nowhere to run. If Turkey's NATO, and that's why they're not going to be allowed to do any missions in there, and there's a reason set up like that, is that they want it where ISIS have a place to run. Also, CP Libre, actually, what he sent to me earlier, he just sent part of what he wanted to say. I'm going to just reread it here when he finishes. He's texting me. We don't have any audio on him, so. I think this is it here. Or no, he's sending more. We don't have an audio, so he's just texting me stuff and he just wants me to read it. So make clear, that who's saying that CP Libre is saying that. This is as close as we have to a co-host tonight. Dylan was Wade, just to make clear. I know it didn't even make clear that Dylan Wade sick tonight. So he's missed the entire show, unfortunately. This is just the luck we've been having here at Voice of Rebellion Radio. I just want we'll thank Lieutenant the other night. He let me on his show, which they're connected to Stable Radio, where this is where this network or this show came from. That network, it's Stable Radio, and that's why I guess I give him a shout out. We both came from the same place, and we both we're still that show's still connected to Stable Radio. I'm still connected to Stable Radio in some ways, and he let me on his show. I like that. I hope we can eventually call him to this show one time. But let's see. Here's CP Libre's full thing that he said. I'll reread it to everybody. Tomorrow's election is not only about a party or candidate, also about making yourself stand whether for or against a project which includes more people than your own population. With your vote, you'll be benefiting or affecting people in Mexico and in other countries where politics decide on the quality of life we could reach. Be honest with yourself. You really want to support these creepy men like Harper and Trudeau? Be the voice of the ones living under the mistakes of your corporation's politicians? Tell them to turn their eyes to the results of the Canadian corporations. They have poisoned lands. They have not been paying a just payment. They're not paying taxes, and they're getting richer. Do you really want to keep supporting that shit? If the Canadian people do not want this shit. So make sure that tomorrow you make Elizabeth May an option for you to truly change Canada. That's CP Libre's words on tomorrow's election. North of the border. And I think I'm about to get into some more accents here, doing some Canadian accents. I got about 22 minutes left. Oh, well, here's typically Canadian stuff if I've not mentioned yet. I mentioned Tim Hortons and Rush. I remember I brought it up was a Chris from Canada who called in. These persons called in twice. The first show we ever had a UC line, I was like, he was like, "I'm sorry." I'm like, "Yeah." And I was like, "You sound like the people from the Trailer Park Boys," I was like, "I'm sorry, Julian." And then, and then he's like, "I'll never say that story again," or something like that. I'm like, well, I made him feel bad about the accent, I think, a little bit. But just saying, I'm not making fun of it. Just it's a fun accent. I just think you're going radio for any time, you realize that accents are kind of a thing that we do. I did those about 4 times. I'm not even going to try another one. So I do the same one every time, and I get it somewhat right. It's never quite like I did one time at home. I had it perfect. I had the whole Texas Southern fear porn voice on. That's the Alex Jones voice for you. And I just never got it quite the same as that ever. Oh yeah, now the background voice is done. If I was up there in DC, I'd tell those Rothschilds to get the fuck out of here. I'd tell somebody, you guys got a bunch of bozos, a bunch of regular Joe said to get the fuck out of the United States. You hear what we're saying? That is what we used to do. We kind of got away from that. I don't think nobody's done an Italian accent in about 6 months. We did those like every other week. But we did back. I did the Southern accent. I stopped doing those as much because I don't know. Usually it was in a bad way. It was usually the saying that the people that are the typical Americans are automatically have a redneck accent. And so I've noticed is that, for example, like Vincent Eastley is kind of Southern. I can realize he's one of the most aware people I know. So just because somebody shows up in the South doesn't mean they're automatically going to be somewhere in the West. what I've noticed is that the people that they think they're smart, they're really the most dumbest of anybody. People that get this, I'd say that the most dumbest people are probably the ones that they just go with whatever's politically correct. They just support the Democrat Party no matter what, or the Republican Party no matter what. They have a party that they always pick, and then they just and then they support all the wars and support anything that the agenda's going. Those are the dumbest people. It's like that. I don't care if you know what's going on. For me, all the other stuff is not really that important. You'll need to. I don't care. You don't need to know the mitochondria as the powerhouse of the cell or whatever. If you can tell me about the Rothschilds and the New World Order, I'm going to say you're a lot smarter than somebody that knows nothing about all they know about politics is what the news tells them. So they can tell you all this science stuff or whatever. But really, unless you have a job in that kind of stuff, it's good to know, but it's not. I don't think it's nearly as useful as stuff about talking about the New World Order, stuff talking about how the bank was stuff that affects every one of us, And also at the same time, going into biology, I'll talk about some of the true stuff. Talk about vaccines and stuff like that. What fluoride does, how that shit will, mercury in vaccines or fluoride will fuck your body up. Not taking what the mainstream doctors have. And also, you think at this point I'm just I'm just antagonizing anybody at this point, but no, doctors, a lot of them that you go to, I think they should have it right there on their lab coats. And I saw a post like this today. They should have it right there on the lab coats. All the vaccine companies and all the pharmaceutical companies they're paid by, or they get kickbacks by, they give you shit, pump shit in your body. I see a lot of these horror stories on there. Of a lot of these, post-vaccine stuff. I mean, they tell us that we should just chillax. The people that are online, because it's politically correct to be in support of every vaccine that the CDC recommends for us. They say, you shouldn't care about those people that they're, they got a vaccine, then the next day their kid seized up, turned blue, and died. It's just you think, that's just another unfortunate mistake. No, it's a fucking tragedy. It's a fucking tragedy, and it needs to be dealt with. And we need to be screaming at these pharmaceuticals. I think those pharmaceuticals, they need to stop hiding behind the curtains. These pharmaceutical CEOs and answer our fucking questions. And these people that are behind all the vaccines, and you act like, well, it can't be that much money. It's billions of fucking dollars on pharmaceuticals. It's one of the biggest. It's a giant drug cartel. It's another wing to the clandestine drug services of the United States that the United States government's behind. In Canada, from what I understand, is going down the same kind of route. For example, real medicine, the least harmful drug, it has no harm for people who do it recreational. Harper's slamming people for weed now, like it did in the United States forever. Canada's now, caught on the advancement of tyranny. Now, that's what Harper's done. He's just brought Canada to par with the United States, and now Canada's no different. In May, and also here's another thing. I was talking about Alex Jones, and this is why I don't like Alex Jones. Besides the fact that he personally attacked me on my show with his InfoWars, was a guy from InfoWars that called into the show. That's only a little thing to why I don't like InfoWars, but I hate his disinfo. He didn't talk bad about Harper or any of these people. I think he talked a little bit bad about Harper, maybe, but didn't talk about Trudeau or Leclerc. He didn't even go in any depth about the Canadian election. But what's the first thing he talks about this whole Canadian campaign I saw? This is what he puts. Elizabeth May is a eugenicist. Literally no base for that claim whatsoever. Elizabeth May doesn't even support abortion, actually. She thinks it should be legal, but she says she is not for it. She just thinks it should not. not be illegal for based on the fact that if it's not, it's going to be in underground places. But you know, if somebody was supportive of eugenics, don't you think that's one of the first things would start at? Because, you know, it is a way of depopulating. It definitely brings the numbers down of total people born if you don't have abortion. So, you know, well, if you were so supportive of eugenics, why would she be in support? Why would she be against abortion? Okay, and another thing, you know, if think about eugenics, you know, she's all for this anti-pharmaceutical stuff. She's actually for homeopathic medicine first before pharmaceuticals, which we know pharmaceuticals kill people by the thousands, you know, millions actually. So again, if somebody that wanted the total number of humans down, you know, this is what eugenics is about. Well, it's about population control, or, you know, controlling what kind of people are around. Which I haven't heard her say anything along those lines. Like, I haven't heard her say, "Oh, we should cull all the people that are disabled or whatever." In fact, I'm pretty sure she's supportive of giving more money to these people. You know, especially if they were a war vet that got injured. You know, and stop the maltreatment of them by the services of the Canadian government. And also, you know, the problems that are inside it. She's not for, you know, the Canadian healthcare system is better than the American healthcare system by not much, but she's actually for changing this, and actually, you know, she's actually going to make more similar probably to maybe the Russian healthcare system or something like that. So, you know, she's really here to keep population down, or you know, or stop certain people from showing up, I guess. She's really doing a terrible job at it. And you'd think that she'd be a lot higher in the polls and actually have a legitimate chance. Why does it seem like the system is trying to take her down so badly? Is that she just won the system, like Alex Jones claims. And he won't even talk about Trudeau or Mulcair. And again, fuck Alex Jones. Because you know what, Alex Jones attacked Voice of the Rebellion. He didn't do it personally. Alex Jones himself didn't call, but he sent one of his little cronies, whatever that guy's name was. You know, I'm not even going to say his name because he probably he probably gets off on people just saying his name. He gets off on hearing that people are pissed at him. I'm not going to say his name. I'm not going to give him the satisfaction. But this guy, whatever, you know. I'm not even pissed at him, really. I'm pissed at InfoWars in general to send him over here. You know, I just realized that he's probably just on the payroll to act like a little whiny bitch, and you know, and then put his little video up. And then, anyways, he might have been number one on the results when he looked up Voice of Rebellion Radio for a while. You know, calling us phonies or whatever. But we quickly made a response video that ended up higher in the results, and then we put all these other videos that are way higher up in the results, you know, of our shows and our quality content. So he lost in the long run because, you know, now that's just an obscure video that has a few hundred views and a few dislikes. And if you haven't got the chance, just so we could make a statement, this guy goes, you know, look up Voice of Rebellion Radio on YouTube, and it's going to come up right there. And you look at a video that's going to say Voice of Rebellion Radio or CIA government phonies or whatever. Go to it, dislike it. You can see the 12 minutes where we actually do pwn them. And that's why you often call us phonies. You can hear that he actually was the one that was actually supporting pro-government stuff, and we were the one that were countering them on. And we were actually supporting the Russian government. He's saying that the Russian government was terrible, which seems like something Alex Jones would do. Alex Jones would, you know, he might talk bad about the U.S. government, but he talks bad about all the governments that are, you know, that actually truly oppose the U.S. government and the Rothschilds and the New World Order. So he, you know, just go to that video, dislike it, check out the comments or whatever, and or you see any ones by that little loser, you can dislike it as well. And also, I didn't like the ones that they're probably, I bet somebody must have, at this point, must have been like, this is complete bullshit. But just brought it up really just to kill some time. So I know we're actually down the last 10 minutes. I don't think anybody's going to call in today. But I'm just getting my throat getting a little bit sore. Sore, as they would say up north of the border. Oh, that was a little bit too much right there. They did the accent. So let me try this again. Let's see. Hello, everybody. This is Chris from North of the Border. We're talking about Canada today, and we're going to talk about that. That sounds just fucking red. That sounds a little red. I don't know. I got to watch. I watched part of the Trailer Park Boys movie today or yesterday. I'd say I watched it. I watched the Dacker movie that came out about 10 years ago, and I think I would have gotten the accents down and heard it, you know, and it would sound more Canadian when I was trying to do the Canadian accents there. I mean, just to make it clear, that's like one of my favorite TV shows right there, Trailer Park Boys. I mean, I don't know why it's so great, but it's just, I don't know. I mean, just the stuff that happens on there. I mean, they're getting baked and they're rolling up to the meat market or whatever, and then they go they do the meat heist. They load up all the meat into the supposed birthday presents, and all their lines that have Bubbles is back there in the back seat. You know, he's freaking out because the weed is too strong, and then he's singing along with the commercials. I'm not even going to try. I was thinking there, should I try to do the Bubbles impression from? Because I know those lines right there. But I'm not even going to try that. That's just going to confuse the hell out of people with what's going on that haven't really been paying attention. About 5 minutes left of the show. Going solo for 2 hours. Been a little bit since I've done that. You know, for the entire 2 hours. I did it for an hour just a few weeks ago, but last time I went 2 hours solo, I think that was a couple months ago. It was like 6 months ago, probably. I went 3 hours solo, I think, a couple times. You know, it always leaves your throat feeling kind of the same afterwards. I mean, there's a certain point where it always, I hate the feeling afterwards. I feel like it's like, oh shit, am I catching a cold, or is it I just talked way too long? I feel like I'm, just down here in Florida. So you're gonna stay up there north of the border. Fucking petri dish of shit going around. So I'm just hoping that I don't get down. And by the way, I'll make an announcement to everybody that lives around me. That does mostly affect them. It might affect the radio people next Sunday, and the people that live around me and pretend to be my friend and probably never have time to seem to hang out with me. Yeah, if you better hurry up on hanging out with me. You stop in on May next weekend or next month or something like that, because I'm leaving for Columbia on Thursday afternoon. Actually, it's gonna be Thursday morning. I'm leaving for Columbia. And not coming back till next month. And I'm going to bring my tablet and everything down there, so I should be able to stay airing. All the shows will be from Columbia. Think about that. There's only after that I'm going to be probably leaving Florida because I'm also moving from Florida out of the state shortly after I come back from Columbia. So, yeah, it looks like by the time in Florida, the nays are probably down, could be in the single digits, really. They have about 4 days till trip to Columbia, and I might be on the way out the same week coming back from Columbia. So, just saying, everybody that listens from St. Pete, Florida, that knows me, nice knowing you. But, a lot of the people here were shitbags and don't even listen to the show. They just don't care about. They don't care about the truth. They don't care about. They just want to continue following their idols, their talentless idols of celebrities, and their talent. You could say talentless too. And idols of politicians that can't even do a speech without stuttering the whole time. I'm not the best speaker myself on the radio, but geez, I mean, Obama nowadays sounds like he's giving an oral report in front of the class or something like that. You know, he went from sounding like MLK to sounding like MLK's half-retarded third cousin. I don't even know. I was thinking of something that'd be a good analogy or something. And also, that's the great thing about being on this radio is that other people say, "Oh my God, it's impolitically correct." No, I'm just being funny. Don't take everything so seriously. What's the saying that's going around nowadays? Bitches don't take jokes. You bitches need to stop taking jokes too seriously. It's a joke, not a dick, or something, or too hard. That's what it is. Stop taking the jokes too hard. It's the joke, not a dick. That's a funny one. Oh shit. Anyways, point is, we're last minute of the show. Don't fucking vote for Harper, Trudeau, or Mulcair. I'd almost say don't get out of bed tomorrow and just don't participate in the system. But you know what? There might be a slight chance that it's not rigged. So they go out there and vote for May. I officially, with just a few hours left of the election, endorse Elizabeth May for Prime Minister tomorrow. Hopefully she wins. I don't think she's going to win. And if Trudeau wins, well, you can go back and say I right. Remember, this is my official prediction tomorrow, and if anybody wants to make a bet on this, I might be willing to do that. For a few loonies, as you would say up there in North the Birder. 35, I'm going to say it's going to go 35% Trudeau, 30% Harper, 20% Mulcair, 10%.
One and no return, and nobody can stop it. Malcolm Little, when he knelt before Elijah Muhammad, the comet that killed the dinosaurs, changing the earth. They love to criticize, they always say I changed for the worse. Like prescription pills when you misusing them, nigga. The Templar Knights, when they took Jerusalem, nigga, and figured out what was buried under Solomon's temple, Al-Aqsa. The name is not coincidental. I know too much, the government is trying to murder me. No coming back like cutting your wrists open vertically. How could the serpent be purposely put in charge of the country? Genetic engineered sickness spread amongst me. My people are so hungry that they attack without reason, like a fucking dog ripping off the hand that feeds them. Immortal technique is treason to the Patriot Act. So come and get me, motherfucker, cause I'm not coming back. This is the point from which I can never